Okay, hello everyone. I'm Vuk from FXS, and I'll be one of the hosts of today's webinar. Before we start, I would like to say that this webinar will be recorded, and I will now give a brief introduction of our moderator today. So, first of all, welcome to the Women in XR webinar. We are excited to have you join us as we explore the experiences of women working in EU-funded XR projects and discuss how to foster greater gender diversity in the field. I'm pleased to introduce our moderator, Regina Van Tongeren. Regina is a marketing and communication expert with a background in the games and XR industries. She is passionate about making immersive tech more inclusive, and as a Dutch ambassador for women in immersive tech, she actively promotes diversity, equity, and inclusion through talks and meetups. Regina, thank you for leading today's conversation, and now I give the floor to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Vuk. That was a great introduction. Thanks so much. And I just wanted to say that I still see the starting soon page, but it's gone now. So hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today here at the Women in XR webinar. First off, I want to thank the FXS team for inviting me to moderate the session for you guys today, because this is a topic that is really close to my heart. I love the XR industry. I've been in love with VR since, I think, 10 years already. And I love where the industry is going at this moment. And yeah, this whole purpose, why we're here today discussing women in XR, is so important. If you look around us at what's happening in politics and what's happening in tech in general, I think these kind of sessions are really, we should keep them alive, not just at International Women's Day, but throughout the year. And not just for women, for all groups that are underrepresented, as we see happening today. Because in my opinion, XR is not just a technology, it is about building worlds. And I really believe that in a couple of years, just like we're scrolling through our screens right now, we will be learning in these worlds, we will be working in these worlds, we will be connecting in these worlds, whether they're augmented or totally in VR. And, you know, it's very important that these worlds are home to everybody. Everybody feels safe in them, and we can all enjoy them, and we can all navigate them properly. So that is why it's so important to talk about diversity and inclusion in XR, because it's a young industry. So now is the moment to make sure that it's baked into the DNA of the industry as a whole. And these worlds where everybody feels safe, they can only be built by diverse teams that have not only a privileged few on board. And that's the thing, what you see still in the industry happening today. If you look at technology, but also XR in more specifically, less than 50%, way less than 50% of developers or women in management positions. It's more closely to 30, and sometimes not even 30%. If you look at the money, if you look at funding initiative, female-led startups receive a lot less money, not even 5% of what is happening. And if you look in spaces like female products, like healthcare, for instance, that's even less. So there is conversations like today are really important, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you and with the amazing speakers that we have today. We have a great team. And I'm really excited because it's a team of women that are not just working in XR, but they're working at the forefront of what's happening at XR. All these projects are really spearheading what's happening in the industry. But before we go into the introductions, I quickly wanted to give a little bit of a notice on the flow for the coming hour. Together we have prepared 3 topics for everybody that we will be discussing. And after every topic, there will be a Q&A moment. So if you have questions, we love them. The more interactive, the better. But you don't have to keep them to the end of the hour. You can ask them in between, but please keep them to the Q&A section after each topic that we will be discussing. You can either ask them in person or put them in the chat. And my co-moderator, Vuk, will help me make sure that we answer all the questions correctly. If you put them in the chat, don't forget to put the name of the person you want to ask the question to. That helps a lot. So let's get started, I think. Let's get started with some introductions. So I would really like to invite our first panelist. And in my view, Georgia, you're first on top. So can you please introduce yourself and give the mic to the next speaker after you're finished?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Georgia Papaioannou. I'm a lawyer. My role is a legal research consultant at Connectable Technologies Ltd, where I have been working for the past 5 years. My expertise lies in digital law, data protection, AI governance, and compliance, particularly in the field of XR and AI. I focus on ensuring that innovation aligns with legal and ethical frameworks. One of the most impactful projects I worked on is HECOF, Higher Education Classroom of the Future. That is a transformative initiative leveraging XR and AI to revolutionize education. HECOF integrates immersive learning environments, AI-driven adaptive education, and virtual collaboration spaces, ensuring that students engage in dynamic, personalized, and interactive learning experiences. My role in HECOF involves navigating legal, ethical, and compliance challenges and regulatory standards that are at the core of its development. I'm excited to be here today to discuss the role of women in XR, the future of immersive technology, and how we can shape an industry that is inclusive, ethical, and driven by innovation. So thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you all here. Let's start.
All right. Megha, can you?
Yes.
Continue. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Megha Quamara, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher in Department of Informatics at King's College London in the UK. I'm working alongside the Sermas project, where the focus of the project is to develop socially acceptable extended reality models and systems. And I specialize in cybersecurity, and I make use of formal-based techniques to analyze these systems. And apart from academics, I'm also involved in various women in STEM initiatives to promote the welfare and professional growth of women in these domains. It's a pleasure to meet you, all the wonderful panelists. And of course, thank you, people in the audience, for joining the seminar today. Thanks. And I can pass the mic to Maria, sorry. I don't know if
we
she
have,
can
we have
hear.
two Marias, so is it Marievi or Maria Madarieta?
It's Maria Madarieta. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have the confusion. Thank you very much for having me here. I am Maria Madarieta. I come from a small village called Lekeitio in Vizcaya, and I moved to the capital as a small girl to become a telecommunication engineer. I started my career there teaching mainly, and I moved to Mexico, and there I started working with virtualware, also with teaching aspects, but using technology, in this case, immersive training projects, virtual reality, augmented reality, and so on. These days, I come back again to Spain, and I am working in virtualware, but in our premises in the Basque Country. With the platform Bureau and its use in education. And it's the main core aspect of the master project where I am participating as a consortium. We have researchers and companies. And our focus there is to work in giving these tools to the manufacturing aspects and to use it to teach and learn robotics in manufacturing. So thank you so much to having me here. And I pass the microphone to Grace.
Hi, I'm Grace Dinan. I'm a senior virtual production broadcast specialist with the TRANSMIXR project. So I work for Technological University of the Shannon in Ireland, and we're part of the TRANSMIXR project where we have 22 partners across Europe with expertise in research, XR technology, AI, volumetric video, and many other skill sets. So we're mainly my role in the project is to focus on the broadcast use cases. We're developing solutions using XR technology and AI for the European creative and cultural sector, and we're focusing on broadcast, cultural heritage, and live performance. My own background is in broadcast. I worked with the Irish national broadcaster RT for 16 years. I was previously the design operations lead there, and I have a background in real-time development, which led to XR technology and now into AI as well. Thank you very much for having me here. Really excited to take part. I'll pass over to Leesa.
Hi, thank you, Grace. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, VOXReality, for hosting this. I'm really glad to be part of this and very excited to have you as the team. Myself, Leesa Joyce. I'm a neuroscience researcher doing my doctorate at the moment. In parallel, I'm working for HoloLight as the head of research for XR projects, and I'm part of 9 European research projects at the moment in different use cases. And I'm representing one of the projects here, which is VOXReality, where we are the use case leaders for training assistant, where you use AI and XR for assisting assembly line workers in industry and for design and prototyping. Very glad to be here. I pass the mic on to Moonisa.
Thank you so much, Leesa, and thank you so much, VOXReality, and everybody, and Regina, for being here. It's a pleasure. Hello, everybody. I'm Moonisa Ahsan. I'm in the same project as Leesa. It's called VOXReality, and there I'm a postdoc researcher, improving and enhancing the user experience design for immersive technologies. And right now I'm based in CWI, which is the National Research Institute for Mathematics and Computer Science in the Netherlands. And it's the same place where Python was made. So I'm excited to be a part of this incredible research institution. Before moving to Netherlands, I was a Marie Curie Fellow in a European project as well in Italy. And there I focused in cultural heritage and annotating different artifacts with the museums. On top of it, I have taught at university to graduate students. I'm very passionate about sharing, exchanging, receiving knowledge. I'm always on the looking out for my mentors and mentees. And one of the things I'm most passionate about is supporting women in every form I can for them to explore the possibilities for them. And so far, I have helped around 32 females acquire a broad opportunity, could be a degree or a job. And on top of it, I like making art, performing arts. I try to express myself with color. Glad to be here and looking forward to the session. Thank you so much. And I pass the floor to Marievi.
Hello from me as well. I am Marievi. I am a senior research engineer at Intracom Telecom. My background is mostly related to informatics. I have a bachelor degree in informatics and telecommunications from University of Athens and a master's degree in computer systems networking from University of Athens again. So since joining Intracom, my expertise lies mostly on the fields of 5G and 6G networks and also IoT. And it was thanks to the second that I had my first encounter with XR quite recently, since joining Cortex project, which aims to facilitate remote collaboration through XR technology solutions, making them more immersive by integrating IoT data into video streams. We even validate these solutions through use cases such as business meetings, industrial maintenance, and remote training. And my role currently in Cortex project is to coordinate Intracom's activities in the integration of IoT data into XR environments. And I think I will pass the floor back to Regina because I don't think we have made the cycle, I guess.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Yeah, we have. I checked everybody on the list. Thank you so much for these wonderful introductions. Also, so nice to hear everybody's different backgrounds in these things. The first topic we want to cover today is your personal journey and experience into the field of XR. And we just heard a little bit on what you're doing currently and a little bit of where you came from in your career. But I'm also very interested in learning what inspired you in the first place to join XR, because it's so new and not many people know about it. So Megha, would you be able to share a little bit of, yeah, how did you get here? How did you choose to go into XR?
That's a wonderful question to start with, Regina. I would say that it was because of my mentor, Kunal Suri, who shared the opportunity in the Sermas project with me when I was looking for roles out there after my PhD. Well, I already had experience in security analysis, focusing on communication protocols and software architecture. But what really excited me was the chance to work on security challenges related to how humans and software-based systems like XR interact, and where users end up making mistakes and they could lead to vulnerabilities that could be exploited by adversaries. And I think this new dimension of security analysis sparked my interest and motivated me to step into this field.
That's interesting to hear. And Grace, can you maybe share a bit of your first perks to think, hey, XR, this is something for me?
Sure. Well, I began working in RTE, the national broadcaster in Ireland, pretty much straight out of college. First of all, in the production design department, and then I moved into the graphic design department, working with real-time engines and developing real-time content. And at the time, that was quite early stages. That's like almost 20 years ago now. So it really wasn't very well known. There was no documentation or anything to help, tutorial videos, no forums to ask. And it was always about sort of just figuring out the project. And I kind of loved that. So I've always been chasing like the next thing where you don't necessarily know the answers, but you want to figure it out for yourself. So I've always been really interested in cutting edge technology. And my role in RT then led on to virtual production, developing content for LED video walls and AR graphics. And the first time I made augmented reality graphics it was for our linear output, like for the broadcast audience, but we were creating AR graphics for the studio with camera tracking technology that moves around them. And you know, from that very first time I created those graphics, I remember thinking how brilliant it would be to be able to see these graphics just through wearables, through a HMD or through glasses, not through a broadcast camera. And I've been imagining what we could do with that technology since that moment. And I think that the technology is finally here now. So we have the opportunity to actually explore some of those things. So that's what led me here.
Yeah. And since that first buzz that you had, what was one of the biggest highlights that you created or you experienced, or what was your career highlight until now? If you have multiple,
yes.
Is also possible.
Well, recently I proposed and led a project for the IBC accelerators as part of TRANSMIXR. We were researching broadcast solutions, leveraging XR and AI, and we proposed a challenge for the International Broadcast Convention Accelerator Program, and collaborated with a number of other broadcasters, tech companies, researchers, actually another EU-funded project as well, XR. And we had a huge team, and actually our project recently won the Media Innovation Project of the Year. So that was a really, really big highlight. Sort of proves that, you know, the research we're doing aligns with industry goals and requirements. So it was definitely a highlight for me.
Yeah, and because you're working in broadcasting, and that's such an interesting space if you look at the development of XR, I think. What do you think will be the biggest challenge for XR in broadcasting?
Excuse me. I think up until now, we've had early adopters that are using VR headsets, mainly, the gaming industry, people who are interested in VR games. So not as many people own the devices. So it's been a little bit more difficult to tailor content towards an immersive audience if the share is very low and it takes a lot of time to produce this content. I think now we're just on the cusp of things becoming mainstream with augmented reality eyewear, and hopefully that will bring the audience level up and make it sort of valid to create content specifically for these devices. But also I think the way that we produce content plays a key role in it. So if we can focus on multi-format delivery, where we're not producing content specifically for XR devices, but we're producing content in a way that it can be viewed through an XR device, or it can be viewed on a television or a mobile phone, that seems to be the key, rather than having different teams working on different output formats. And that's something we're trying to solve in TRANSMIXR as well. So hopefully we'll get there.
All right, thank you very much. And Megha, your career is a little bit shorter, but I was wondering if you already have something that stood out since you've started, but maybe also some challenges that you ran into.
Well, looking back into my career, I think one such moment when I felt really proud was when I defended my PhD in the year 2022. And it was when I became the fourth doctor in the family, joining my parents from medicine and science and my brother from engineering. So now we proudly call ourselves as a family of doctors. But jokes apart, completing my PhD during the pandemic was tough, especially when I could not see my family for straight 2 years. And I'm proud to have finished, of course, with the support of some beautiful people like my supervisors, my mentors, and my friends, of course. But more than that, I'm grateful we made it through such challenging times. Regarding some challenges, of course, I will talk about XR because we all are working in XR. So I think one of the biggest challenge for me was to understand the background aspects of the technology. So when I joined Sermas project, I was coming from a background of using formal-based techniques to analyze security of the systems, specifically software-based systems, as I mentioned earlier. But XR, they have their own peculiarities, right? So for me, the very first step was to have a grasp of the basic concepts. And of course, I was interacting with different partners in the Sermas project who have background in robotics, human-computer interaction, and so on. And I think those collaborative sessions, those meetings helped me to get out of or to overcome those challenges and to understand different aspects of XR, which are not just limited to one area. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah, I was listening to all of your introduction, and I was thinking also when you talk about challenges, it's a question for all. So please join if you want to say something. I was thinking you've all been working in teams probably that have a high percentage of men versus women, and I was wondering what your experiences are there, but not so much what the negative experiences are, but more what the positives are. What helped you to navigate that? Leesa, I see your hand.
Thank you so much. I raised the hand because this is one of my favorite questions. Also, I would like to answer this because if I go to my background, I've had one of those wildest transitions. 2 years ago, I was doing surgeries, implanting electrodes in the brain, trying to understand the electrodynamics in the different regions of the brain. And then as part of different projects, I started into human-machine interfaces. And I attended a conference, and sorry to deviate from the question, but I'll come to the challenges right after because it was connected somehow. And I attended a conference where there was a use case they were representing. They were showcasing how doctors can be trained to do surgeries, because I was doing some brain surgeries at that point. How doctors can be trained to do surgeries using robotics and XR and like AI and stuff. And I was shocked to see, but also like in a positive way. I was like, what's going on? That was the start. And then I got into XR as a field, and when I started as the head of research at HoloLight, I was given a team of 9 men. That too, like very senior developers who were working in XR for quite a while. And I came with a background in neuroscience, which was worlds apart at that point of time. But now I see that it's not really that far because XR can be used everywhere. It's so interdisciplinary that you can find use cases where you can use XR, and XR can push the boundaries of every use case that way. So right now we are working on 9 different projects in different fields, but my personal favorites are usually the medical use cases, also because I'm from that background. This field, there are challenges in the field because the medical field is looking forward to, but is not already open to XR and robotics because there is still the safety that that costs lives. So there is more to do in medical technology with XR, and there is a great future, I would say, in that area, in that sector. So this is part of the challenge that I'm facing. I have a great team of 9 men who are very supportive, and for me the experience has been very welcoming. But the field I would like to get into is challenging, but is also beautiful. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the future there.
And we have a lot of allies, I think, so that really helps in all the teams. All right, so I think one of the reasons I really like these sessions is I hope there are a lot of people watching, and especially young professional women who get a little bit of inspiration. So Moonisa, you have a very, very varied background, and you're working on so much from tech to art to anything. If there's anything you can advise, if you go back to your own little self, like at 20, maybe 10, 20 years ago, what would your advice be for entering this field of XR? Is there anything that you think, I wish somebody told me that before?
Thank you so much, Regina. It is indeed a very interesting and reflective question. If I would go back and give an advice to my younger self or anyone who's entering, especially as a woman, first of all, there's a high probability, we would like to admit that there's a high probability that you could be the one or one of the few as a gender in the community. So try to find your network, try to find your community. You have all the capacity and power to do it alone, but you don't have to. So try to find the right community, reach out to both mentors and mentees. I excuse me, I always tell to my people around me that I'm always leaving my digital footprint so I can find my mentors and my mentees, the people who can benefit from me. So look out for the community, ask questions, and get super comfortable with rejection because it's part of the process. And third, when you work on your craft, when you know what you're doing, be super comfortable to take space. You have it, you innately have the right to do it. The more it shows in your behavior, the more it gets comfortable for not only you, but the people around you to be able to respond you the way you want. So I would go along with these 3 advices if I could start over, even more.
Even more. Marievi, is there something you would like to add on that? I think they're already beautiful.
Sure. I think the issue of collaboration that was already mentioned is very, very important. I would also extend this. Actually, my advice would be mostly mindset related. And specifically, the most important part for me would be to not be afraid to enter this, this challenging field, probably quite male dominated. But to my mind, the most important part is that you should not be afraid that you will not make it. You should, of course, get yourself prepared as well as you can in the technical aspects and have the best possible understanding of the technical aspects of the field. But I think that only you with your mindset can prevent yourself from excelling at any field actually, but specifically here in a technology related field. So do not be afraid, and also trust yourself and trust the progress rate that you're making without comparing yourself to someone else that you might think that is more successful or does better, because you can never take into account all the parameters. For example, how many years of experience someone might have, how many years you have. Comparison, I think it's not the best you can do in order to promote yourself in this field. I think these are the two most important mindset related advice that I would give to myself. Not be afraid to trust myself and trust the rate at which I am progressing.
Yeah. And Georgia, is there anything that because we had 2 wonderful lists already, is there anything that you would like to add, or any specific thing that was specifically for you? You think, oh my God, I wish somebody told me that.
Well, I have a legal background, so one advice would be you don't have to fit the mold, you have to break it. I came into XR through law and ethics, not coding or development. So early on, I thought I had to speak the language of engineers to be taken seriously or to make my role feel valid in an industry that revolved around tech. I didn't realize back then that the most disruptive voices in XR aren't the ones that blend in. They are the ones that challenge the way we think about the tech itself. I would tell myself that my expertise is not secondary, it's essential, because XR is not just about innovation, it's about how we build and regulate and protect these immersive environments before they become the digital spaces where we work, learn, or live. If people aren't asking the right questions about privacy and ethics and accessibility, then those spaces that we build in, they will be filled with spots that were impossible to correct later, maybe. I would also tell myself that imposter syndrome is a distraction. There will always be people in the room who assume you don't know as much as they do. So the key is to prove them wrong. Not with hesitation, of course, but with validation and owning your expertise with conviction. Finally, I would remind that the industry is still being shaped, and if we want to change the narrative, we have to write it ourselves, because XR is not just technology, it's a new dimension of human interaction. And if we don't set the right precedents now, we may spend decades trying to undo the damage. That's all from my side.
I think that's a wonderful conclusion. And looking at the time, I think it's a good moment to wrap up this first section. And I was wondering if there are maybe any questions from anybody listening, either live or in the chat. Vuk, maybe you can see any questions. If not, that's also okay.
Yeah, no
We
questions
can just
yet.
continue.
Yeah, we can continue.
No questions?
Yeah, we don't have any questions now, so we can continue.
Okay. All right. Well, if there are no questions, it means that the stories were wonderful and complete, which is always very good. It's always very good. So let's get a little bit more into the purpose of the webinar. So the way the industry is going, and the gender and diversity, and what we're experiencing there, the positives and the negatives. Because yeah, like I said in the introduction, this industry is still male dominated. And one of the things I hear a lot is that people always tell me, yeah, but there are no women. They're just not there. There are no women in education that are choosing STEM or. And I'm just really wondering if that is true. And Grace, maybe you can share a little bit of your ideas on that.
Yeah, so I think maybe the way to tackle it is to make diversity and inclusion a priority from the very beginning of a project. So right at the proposal stage, when you're choosing partners to collaborate with, you know, make sure that you have a diverse range of partners within your team so that you have different opinions, you have different mindsets and abilities catered for within your team so that you get the best outcome from your projects. So right at the very, very beginning stage, you need to start thinking about diversity and inclusion. And a lot of times, you know, it can be something that you try to fix midway through a project, or it's like a box ticking exercise where you have to fulfill a quota or something, or you put a woman on a panel to discuss something, but they weren't really core of the project, you know, just for appearance's sake. But I think we really have to keep it at the core of a project. And actually, I have to say, it's one thing that we've done really well in TRANSMIXR from our very first General Assembly meeting, when we all got together for the first time. We had a diversity and inclusion workshop during that meeting, and our project coordinator, Niall Murray, was saying that, you know, he wants to make this a core of the project, that everyone is aware of it from the very beginning, and that this is a priority throughout the entire project. And I think unless you tackle that in the very beginning and make everyone aware that it's a priority, it's not going to work. And I really agree with that approach. It's exactly the same approach I would take if I'm developing a solution or a software application or something. I would always try to think about accessibility. How is this going to be used by someone who's visually impaired or hearing impaired or has mobility issues? And if you try to solve that at the end, you never get the best solution. It has to be thought about from the very beginning. So I think it's the same with diversity.
Yeah, that's so true. It needs to be in the DNA of everything that you're doing. I was wondering, Maria M, do you have something to share on what you have encountered, but mostly, more importantly, if you've ever been part of projects that would help to alleviate the barriers or solve the problems that are there?
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. No.
Yes. Yes, very well.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace. Yes. From my perspective, the references are very important. Apart from the tips that we can give them to have references. For me, the woman reference teachers at the school, the ones that were at university, talking with them, how they are coping with the industry was very, very important. So I was was part of an initiative led by the University of Deusto here in Bilbao, called Inspira STEAM. It's a pioneering project to aim to stimulate the interest in science and technology among young people, in this case, primary school people. So also focused in girls, okay? So to let them know that we are there, we are working in the spheres, because it's awareness raised and group mentoring things. The mentors were scientists, researchers in technology, all of us women. We put together these girls and say, look, I am doing this. We have biologists, we have people working in the sea area with the fishes, me with my headsets and telling the other women also, this is XR, this is VR, giving the headsets to school and letting them to try it, to connect with the contents, to see the capabilities. Nowadays, they have more this kind of devices at homes, but it's not so common. So it's like, wow, this is sixth, and it's a woman that is helping me to use it, and it's doing something with it, education and this aspect. So it's to show that there is women in technology and doing this, and that's the references are very important. And of course, that someone mentions the networks, to know, to pair, to contrast, to talk with others that feel and suffer and think the same way. That's important also.
Yeah, building those communities. That's right. That's amazingly important. There's always a lot of talk about these barriers and that women are experiencing in XR, but in tech in general and in other fields. And I was just wondering, maybe Marievi, can you make that a little bit more specific? Because not everybody has the same experience. So I was wondering if you could give some real examples on things that you encountered maybe and what really struck you as surprising.
Yes, sure. Well, to be honest, I think one of the biggest barriers is a mental barrier. Again, I will focus again on that because I think that the existing lack of representation and visibility of women in XR is the one that creates a vicious cycle, let's say, as we don't see women in relevant leadership roles very much in projects. This can feel discouraging for women, and they might feel that they do not have a place in this industry. They do not belong. They will not be taken seriously. So this can be a huge mental barrier to my mind, where women will start doubting their potential, or they will think that they will need to make much more effort to prove themselves compared to a man in the same industry. But it can be sometimes, it can have grounds, as there might be some cases where indeed bias can be seen, although I truly believe that this tends to disappear slowly. For example, there might be a bias in interviews or hiring processes, or roles assignments inside a company when it comes to project leaderships, where women sometimes might not be given the same opportunity, or their ideas might not be given the same attention. Sometimes women can be overlooked probably in corporate environments when it comes to leadership in XR related roles. And these barriers can make it, of course, harder. But to my mind and in my experience, I think this tends to disappear gradually. And to be honest, from my experience, I have been lucky enough to be always in teams where I did not face any such barrier. And in reality, in my role here in Intracom, I was actually the first female hire that happened for my team. And this, I think, proved my team's approach to women and how they would treat equally one woman that has the knowledge that needs to have for this job, for this role.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting how you're making the statement that it's also a mental barrier that we as women ourselves have. And I was just thinking and wondering, what is it that we can do to fix that? I mean, I'm a mom, I have a daughter. Maybe I need to do something, or maybe it's something that needs to change in the way our education system works. Or do you have any thoughts on that? Or
I actually think it's mostly, I don't know if it's the best thing, but I think that it starts from us. I mean, if we act like there is no difference between us and a man for the same role, I think this will start becoming like a normality for everyone. For younger generations, we should definitely treat them like there is no point in making any difference between the two genders. And I believe that a woman who feels sure about the technical knowledge that she has, and that feels sure that she can be suitable for a role that she wants to pursue, she will not have any hesitance in pursuing it eventually.
yeah, with the right mindset. It's very
Yes.
important. Very good. No, thank you so much. To wrap this, because we're already talking a lot about this, but to wrap it up, I was wondering, because mindset is one thing and environment is also a thing, but there's also like programs such as Horizon Europe or other rooms where maybe legislation is made, how can we maybe ask from those areas to help women or support women better in XR? And I was wondering, Megha, if you have something to share on that.
Yeah, that's a good question again. I think such programs can help or support women-led XR initiatives by providing more visibility and dedicated spaces for women entrepreneurs. And I would say that today's panel discussion, for example, is a great contribution to this. Additionally, offering dedicated training programs, as Moonisa said, it could be about mentorship, or it could be about, providing technical guidance to the women on how to apply for funding and how to provide, tech-related contributions, and to stay up to date with the latest technology would be extremely valuable. And specifically introducing smaller early stage grants with family friendly conditions. As you said, you are a mom, so to facilitate women with flexible deadlines and childcare support can help women founders build prototypes and minimal viable products that they could deliver to the market. And I think this would ensure women have the knowledge and resources as well as the confidence to successfully apply for funding and lead innovative XR projects.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that flexibility is a really good point, I think. And to wrap it up, I was just wondering, Moonisa, I know that you're very active. You told us yourself also in your introduction, you're very active in mentoring other people. And I was just wondering what your thoughts are. Is like the mental barrier that we discussed, is that something that you encounter also when you talk to mentees? And do you see any other solutions where you think, hey, this is the experience I have, this might work?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. And I also see that we have some questions in the chat as well. So I will try to answer a little bit of everything, but mainly referring to your question. I realized after mentoring internationally that the problems are of different perspective for the people or the women from different origins. So for some, unfortunately, the problem is still access to education. For underrepresented women or communities from developing or underdeveloping countries. For them, this is the main problem. And it's one of the main, and the trust and support, trust in themselves, support from the community. The other type of problems that I have seen is lack of support from the community, their own mindset, lack of trust in their own skill. I think so women are naturally more hard on themselves. They are actually sometimes more qualified for the position, but they don't feel comfortable and confident as much, or they don't show at least, and they're hard on themselves. So this is one of the things as well. And also sometimes I think that not being able to ask or communicate what you are looking for, what type of help or support you're looking for. This can be both from the surroundings and from the person as well. This thing can be one of the barriers as well. So I would say that the challenges are a lot, but they also are different from person to person, situation to situation. And the circumstances you are born with, your gender, many things, they make you qualify for certain problems and solutions. So it's a very diverse equation of life.
Yeah, thank you so much for raising that, because that's something I learned of the past year, actually. That so many working so in international companies, I've heard so many stories, and they're all different, and sometimes you don't realize it because we're all in our own bubble, and it's good to have that perspective from the outside as well. Thank you so much. So I see there are questions. Are there questions left?
Yes,
Cool.
there are 4 questions. I'll start with the first one. So, what are some of the biggest opportunities you see for women in XR right now?
I see one hand by Moonisa. Yeah, go for it, Moonisa. If you want to answer, please do.
Okay. First of all, opportunities in XR are endless. please pursue what you are good at. As Georgia rightly said, technology is not the only way, it's one of the ways. You can support directly being in the tech, you can support it by hardware, by software, by design, by experience design, by supporting the team, leading the team legally through collaboration, management. So you pick your own skill set and apply it to an XR opportunity. That is the biggest opportunity for you, and it will be different for different people. It will give you different results. It will ask different type of effort and hard work from you, but look what you are good at. Focus on that. That will be your biggest superpower.
Yeah, I would like to add a little bit on that because I'm not a techie as well, and I love XR. And I think especially looking at the future, people who are good at philosophy, at thinking about ethical questions on where the development should go, these are the people that we need. The people that are not technical but know how to design things very well for different kinds of people. Those are the people that we need also. So yeah, it's a very good point. It's not only technical people, and I'm sure legal people, we also need legal people. So there's such a diverse field of opportunities. I think that's absolutely right. Leesa.
I think
I
I'm
see your hand.
stealing some, I'm stealing some words now, but I would really emphasize what Georgia mentioned. XR is just not a technology; it's just a new dimension of human interaction. Just to mention the length and breadth of the industry right now, XR is one technology at the beginning of its stage, which has extended its arms towards fashion as well. It's Sephora, for example, is using VR and AR in like fashion and their products in retail. It is insane, and I mean we have not seen a lot of other technologies getting into diverse markets in this scale. So I think XR is for everyone. It's not just for technology.
Yeah, that's true. And think about healthcare. And one of
Exactly.
my favorites, education, it's also growing in there. No, that's absolutely true. Do we have more questions, folks?
Yes, we have more questions. Next one. Thank you for sharing your experiences. As someone looking to break into XR, what's the very first step you would recommend I take? How can I find mentors or community, especially for women in XR?
Well, that's one for me then. If you're looking for a community, Women in Immersive Tech is the community that I also work with, and it's a European organization where we try to connect as much women in immersive tech as possible. And every country has their own ambassador. And what we do, we set up community meetings throughout the year, at least 2, hopefully more. We build networks so people can find each other. We also, if I get a question from somebody who's studying and who needs a mentor or a place to do their thesis, I try to get the connections. And sometimes it's local, it's in the Netherlands, sometimes it can be international. And another important thing is that we also provide training and mentoring. And so Women in Immersive Tech, that's of course one of the places to go to. But there are, I think, if you look local, there are many more organizations that host these kind of meetups. If you Google for tech meetups or immersive tech meetups in the city where that's closest to you or where you're living, I'm sure you'll find, because they are out there. It's happening. You just need to get into the agenda and make sure you're connected.
Thank you, Regina. So next question. What's the biggest misconception people have about women working in XR, and how can you change that? I see
Moonisa, I see a hand.
I think we indirectly covered that in our answers. Like misconceptions could be like it's only about tech or not only one field. So in my opinion, I think any misconception that can apply to any type of technology in a slightly extended form could be there for women and XR as well. but at the same time, quoting again Marievi, that your mindset helps. So if you are sure of what you're doing and you're good at what you do and you're trying to find the right community, it shouldn't be a problem. So that's my little tidbit there.
Thank you, Moonisa. I see Megha has the hand raised.
Yeah, I would like to add a point, like, of course, there is a societal perception about men being naturally attuned to the tech field. And this is something, as we have been discussing, that stops women, that doubts their competence. But it also, we also need to talk about the failures. So we can't always talk about the cases where we see names thriving in the community, but also to keep in mind that you cannot be successful without facing failures. And of course, you will find people in the society who can discourage you in the first place. But then someone rightly said that in the world, there is an infinite scope of knowledge, but at the same time, an infinite scope of ignorance. So ignore such people and keep your confidence high. And yeah, I think that should help. Thanks.
Thank you, Megha. So we have 2 more questions, actually 3 more. The next one. Thank you for organizing this panel. Very interesting. I have just started working as a freelance XR consultant, researcher, and I have a behavioral science background. I am also an external PhD candidate in behavioral sciences in the Netherlands, and I would love to hear any advice you have for those trying to start their own small businesses or work freelance in this space.
I think, Grace, you were the first to raise your hand.
Sure. Yeah, I've experience in this area as well. So I also work as excuse me, sorry, my voice is going. I also work as a consultant, or I worked as a freelance consultant for a while, and I'm now a founder and CEO of my own business as well, where I work on technology projects with different sectors. And I think maybe the best advice would be to grow your network. First of all, think about what type of projects you want to work on, what projects you want to consult on, and how to gain that experience, and collaborate. It's very, very difficult to innovate efficiently if you try to do it on your own. So look for collaborative projects, work with people who have expertise that you want to learn from, or that you would need to solve a problem, expertise that you don't have yourself, and find the right teams and collaborate to gain that experience. And then you can take that experience to your clients if they're looking for similar projects. And definitely go to XR conferences, tech conferences, take part in these types of webinars and online discussions as well, forums, join immersive tech groups and things like that. I mean, for anyone in Ireland, there's a great support in the Immersive group, which is for the Irish immersive sector. I'm sure every European country has their own group who looks after immersive tech, and get involved with those types of initiatives. And they're great support to small businesses as well when they're starting out. And obviously, I'm sure there are incentives with business supports. Like, again, I only know the Irish ones really, but like IDA and things like that in other countries as well. So there's lots of support there when you're starting out.
Thank you, Grace. I see Marievi has her hand raised.
Yes, well, actually, I certainly don't have the same experience of freelancing, and I cannot probably give the same advice, but to my mind, in any freelancing activity, not only related to the XR, but specifically here, I think the most important part is network, as we said, but to make yourself findable, to use the power of social media, for example, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, any social media that might help you to create your personal brand, even create a website. If you're reaching out to clients, I guess that portfolio and website would be something essential to showcase your previous work, and to probably invest in SEO strategies so that you're always appearing high. So in general, to become as findable as possible.
Yeah, I think that's indeed very important. And it actually, this question harks into a question that we actually had in the next section, but I see, Maria, is there anything you can add to all these great tips in terms of mentorship programs or initiatives that would be really helpful for people starting out?
I know that the initiative of the European Union also, that is one of the points to start, that is called Women Tech EU, that supports women leading deep tech startups for Europe. And they have, I understood that they have now an open call open also. So it's one of the points to try to find things. And then internationally, we follow different associations. In this case, we are part of a BRAR association, and there is a diversity and inclusive committee also giving information, conclusions, trying to promote the progress of diversity and women and in inclusion. And there's place for all of us, as you mentioned before, in all the aspects, from managing, from design, from legal aspects. For example, we encourage the talent that is woman talent. So it's there's a ways in each countries, and the ones that we know here is in Spain. There are initiatives to startups, and the governments are pushing them. So it's good.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, one thing I would like to add is the question of money, because if you're starting out, and especially if you're building your business, and there is a trend that I'm very happy to see, is that I see a lot of like programs that happen on a European level that really are catered to help support women founders. But also in the private sphere, there is a lot of movement where there are programs created especially for female founders. So especially in tech. So if you go look for them, they're out there. I'm happy to see that our Women in Immersive Tech URL is on there. We have a couple of resources there also on the website. And of course, all the ambassadors are there. If you want to connect to any of us, we can connect you locally to mentors you need, and every ambassador has a lot of knowledge also about where to get the funding and how to get into the space. So please don't hesitate to go there. Any more questions?
Yes, there are two more questions. First one is, are there any occasions where being a woman in XR helped you?
Can you repeat that? I couldn't really.
Yeah. Were there any occasions where being a woman in XR actually helped you?
Ah, that's a nice one. Did we experience any positive effects of being a woman in XR? Moonisa.
Okay. This experience is actually not for me, but for a friend of mine. And I was super happy for her that in a university, she applied and the, the qualification, everything, the experience was same as the male counterparts, but she was given preference because she was a woman. And I'm glad that when she joined, her team told her that do not think yourself as gender hiring. You were hired on your skills, your abilities, your qualification, and we are doing active steps to hire women. That is why you're there, but your core was your skill. So that was the most beautiful, welcoming thing. But yes, her being a woman helped in her getting that position priorities.
Yeah. Leesa?
we talked about hard skills, like as we can be as much talented as the other genders, but talking about the other side, women can bring another world of perspectives to the whole environment. So hard skills, yes, we can bring it equally, but perspectives, I think it's only the woman who can bring it. So the perspective from the men, it's already there. I can give you a small funny story that happened when I joined the team. Let's take the example of the VOXReality project. We were developing an application where we look at a 3D model where you can interact with, and the assembly line workers in industries would assemble objects of a rocket engine. So you have to basically stand and assemble and work on the model. So it was developed by a lot of European men with that height. And when I wore the glasses first, I couldn't see anything. I was like, okay, what are we doing here? And then they're like, look up. So I see all the models on the top. And then I went for a review and I said, okay, this doesn't make sense. What do we do with short people or, people who cannot access this? They have to work with the models. And now we have a new feature in the application, not just the application, but the whole technology that we have, that it senses the eyesight and readjusts the whole space, the XR space that we have for the height of the person. After that, they start giving me all the applications they have, all the use cases they have, and ask them to review and give your, ideas and perspectives. It's quite nice. It's funny, but I think this helped the team as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a really nice story. It made me think of all the haptic suits that are being created right now, and like we should all try them on and see if they fit everybody. All right. Are there any more questions?
Yes, there is one more question. Wait a second. Can you share examples of how diversity has positively impacted your XR team's outcomes?
Any ideas?
I think we just spoke about that.
Yeah, well, Maria,
Yeah.
cannot emphasize it enough.
No, I was thinking in our processes, and we have a manager that is a woman, and the UX team is a man and a woman, and the testing part is always asking volunteers, and especially women. So I think we think in the design phase of the applications and the use of the technology itself, or try to be diverse, and we have that inside. So I think it's a positive thing that not only us, all our teams are aware that we need diversity. I have a colleague that can't see 3D and is a 3D developer, and the eyes they can't use properly, for example, or I have color problem colleagues, they don't see proper colors. So we need to test, we need to see how the outcomes of the projects are functioning with them also. And that's very important. And as you say, the size, we have a feature that also collaborate with that. And we have tested our solutions, for example, with the chairs, the wheelchairs, and is functioning properly also. So it's amazing to know that all kind of people we try, and we think about accessibility is there in all the project that we are working with. I mentioned this team because we have full of we in the way we learn that this is important also. So we are aware of that, and when we test and when we try things, we are aware of that also.
Yes, Moonisa, would you like to add something to that?
Very quickly, I was in the community of women for mathematics in the Netherlands, and one of the scientists, she's working on training AI datasets, how AI talks about gender, especially about women, and what type of adjectives it uses. That was really interesting. So I think so having women around, because she's a woman herself, and this thing that how AI talks and thinks about gender and which attributes it assign. So she was working on like the word leadership. Mostly it comes for men, but how can we start feeding into AI now and training the data sets so it becomes more for the persona, not for the gender. So these type of things were super incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very interesting interesting side of AI at the moment. Who is going to train it, and how can we make sure that it is as diverse as we want AI and both XR also to be as well. Well, actually, these are amazing questions. Thank you everybody for asking them, because it made my work a lot easier, because there were a lot of questions that we actually had already envisioned for the next section that was on a future of women. But I see a hand. I think it's Book.
Yeah,
More questions?
so there is one more question. Yeah.
Oh,
How do you-
nice. Well,
yeah.
let's go.
Yeah. The next one is how do you suggest we advocate for more inclusive hiring practices in XR companies?
Georgia, is that something you with your background might have a bit of a...
I'm not sure I've heard correct the question. So I would need the repetition, please.
Yeah. How do you suggest we advocate for more inclusive hiring practices in XR companies?
More inclusive practices.
More inclusive hiring practices.
Sorry, I can't understand the word.
I can repeat it. Sorry. How do we advocate for inclusive hiring practices in XR companies?
Maybe inclusive hiring teams. I don't know. It's all about mentality. And if you want to include women, you will include women as well. I would talk about hybridization, but okay, I can open an issue now. If the management team and the hiring team are on the same mentality and they want to include women in their implementation teams, then I think that that would solve the problem as well. But you have to create and build best policies, best practices and policies in the companies. That's the first step maybe, and then the next.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. If the intention is there, then it will happen. So that's step one. One thing I do see is that a lot of hiring practices use a lot of technology and AI, especially in the first stage of hiring. And not to say that there are any policies out there that exclude women, but like for instance, I think somebody already mentioned it. When you're on social media or if you're looking for a job, the algorithm also has an effect on what you see. And there was just I think there was a lawsuit. I think it was I'm not really sure against which company, but they were suing a company for only showing like secretary jobs to women, and mechanic jobs they were not shown to women on that platform. So I think that's also something we need. I mean, having the intention to hire diverse teams and having a diverse team deciding on that, so we need women up there also, is very important. But we also need to make sure that all the processes behind it and all the technology that's helping us find people and also helping us, it makes work easier, because you always get a lot of applications and it helps you filter, but you need to make sure that your filters are correctly in that space, I think.
And now we are done with questions.
No more
So-
questions?
Yeah, that was the last one.
Nice. Well, thank you again so much, everybody, for sending those questions. And like I was saying, we already covered some of the next some questions from the next topic. We wanted to talk a little bit more about the future of women in XR, and one of the things we wanted to cover was mentorship and advice to give to young women. Is there anybody in the panel who would like to add something that we didn't already cover in the answers to the questions? Just a quick check if you guys have any burning issues you would like to raise on these two topics. So on what advice you would like to give, or any mentorship or program initiatives. Moonisa, you still have something? Right.
Thank you so much. Very quickly, technology, working on yourself, finding the community, these things are amazing. Focus on them, but as a woman, learn your body. Please learn about your body, about your cycle, about your hormones, because some days you're just going to be biologically amazing and some days not. And you need to make peace with that. It's a blessing. You will have way more seasons in a month plus in a day. So it's not directly about XR, but it's generally a beautiful thing about being a woman. Learn your body. You will be able to make peace with yourself, with your surroundings, and the people will know that as well. So communicate that as well, that if it's a low day, regardless, I really hope you find healthy, understanding, communicative people around you, but feel free to mention that it's not the best day today. And if you can delay or delegate some tasks, do it and learn your body. Be easy on yourself some days.
Yeah, that's a very good tip. Thank you so much for adding that one. Well, if we look at the future of women in XR, like I said, we covered already a lot of the things we wanted to discuss today. But one thing it's just the general question on where do we see the role of women evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? How do we see women? Are there any specific spaces where you think we could have a contribution, or is it more in general that we are going to change the XR space as it is? Megha, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, I personally anticipate a significant increase in women's participation in XR, both in technical and leadership roles. So if we look at the current statistics, we only have like near about 22% of immersive tech and gaming workforce, specifically in the UK. And if we talk about the worldwide web space out there, only 13% of founding teams include women, and merely 3% are entirely women-led initiatives. So I think these statistics, they highlight the existing gender disparity, but with ongoing efforts in mentorship, training, and supporting networks, as we have been discussing so far, I believe that we'll see a more balanced representation. And this will lead to richer innovation and more inclusive XR experiences in the coming decade from the side of the participation of women in XR.
Thank you so much. And Grace, how do you see that in your field? How do you see that happening?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, the early adopters with XR technology were mainly the games industry, which is predominantly male dominated. But I think nowadays, as XR becomes more mainstream, we're seeing other industries try to adapt XR solutions into their current workflows, into their current organizations. So we're going to see a rise in XR technology in education and healthcare, for instance, and organizations where women have a larger presence. Excuse me, my voice is going. And are in leadership positions and in a position to kind of take on the role of XR within their own organizations and how it can work for them. So I think we're kind of entering an interesting space where maybe the difference won't be as extreme in the next phase, particularly with augmented reality eyewear and AR glasses and things like that, maybe more so than the VR industry, specifically with the larger headsets that were designed primarily for men to wear and are slightly less comfortable for women with smaller heads and things like that. So I think we're coming into a space where it's easier to use XR technology and easier to make it work for us.
Yeah, that would be great. More diverse teams, and that also has an effect on what everybody is producing. So all the haptics and then the peripherals, but also the worlds themselves become more diverse and inclusive as well. And I really hope, and to be honest, within the next 5 to 10 years, we don't have to talk about specifically women in XR as much anymore. That it will become more mainstream, and not just women, but all kinds of groups of people who are currently underrepresented in tech teams and development teams, but also in technology itself, and that we get a lot of allies. And I think that's very important because one of the things that needs to change for diversity to get there is that we need power to be diversified. We need the power to be the people in the decision-making rooms. We need diverse teams there. So we need allies to get there. We cannot do it by ourselves. And I've seen the past International Women's Day. I was so happy. I was in Amsterdam, and there was this great march happening, and it's so great to see so many diverse people coming together and marching for these kinds of topics. And it happened in a lot of countries around the world. So that's really good to see. Well, I think we are nearing the end of this seminar, and I was just wanted to ask Book, do you see any more questions, or just give a little bit of room if anybody has some questions right now?
Yeah, there are no questions at the moment, but let's give our attendees a couple of minutes to ask anything that they would like to know.
If you have any questions on the future of women in XR, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat. We already covered a lot about mentorship and about what needs to change and the initiatives that are out there, and where we see the role of women going into the future. For the last part of our session, I would really like to open up our discussion a little bit more. And one thing I think is very important is you cannot become what you don't see. So representation for me is very important. And we talked about mentorship, but for me, it's also heroes that are very important to have and to see. And especially women in tech and women in immersive tech need their role models. I think that role models have of which you are, of course, a part, but I think they play a very important role in stimulating more women to choose for this line of work and these studies. So I was just wondering if there's any heroes or any role models that you would like to share that you've encountered. Whether in your personal journey or maybe bigger, more famous people in the XR sphere. Megha, I see your hand first.
Yeah. So one name that I could recall is Parul Vadva, and she's based in India, and she's an immersive storyteller and XR director, because as Leesa said, the applications for XR out there are like they're infinite, I would say. There's no limit to that. So this person, she has been exploring extended reality to implement in important themes like migration and identity. And one of the very beautiful example is her project called Partition of India, which is about making VR virtual reality to address intergenerational trauma and memory. So how essentially the events, they impacted the generations, across, like we have been talking about the year 1947, but how it impacted the future generations. And her work shows that how XR can be used not only for entertainment, but also to share meaningful historical stories that can help foster empathy and understanding in the society. Yeah. That's all.
Thank you, Megha. Can you also please share this in the chat? That's what one of the
Yeah,
attendees
sure.
asked you.
Sure.
Yeah, good one. And Grace.
Excuse me. Yeah, well, in my own personal journey, I've had a few women that have been amazing supports to me. So I'll shout out Mookie Culhan from the IBC Accelerator program. She's the project coordinator there, and she's also a Women in Immersive Tech ambassador in the UK. And I wish I'd known Mookie earlier in my career, so I wish there were more women like her. Amazing support to everyone in XR technology, but very supportive to women especially, and always looking for diversity and inclusion within teams that she's part of. In the Irish sector, Camille Donegan is the CEO of Immersive, also very supportive to women in XR community and immersive tech in general. So, you know, we need more women like her as well, and great representation for all of us. And then I suppose on a higher level, then like inspiration would be from people like Noni Della Pena, who's sort of way ahead of her time in terms of VR experiences and VR journalism and things like that, and inspiration to lots of people.
Yes, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for mentioning one of our ambassadors, Muki. She's really awesome, and I advise anybody who works in the UK to get in touch with her through LinkedIn. Are there any hands? Any more heroes we would like to share? Moonisa, sorry, I didn't see.
I would say in my personal story, my mom, one of my teachers, and my father, they were the one who kept me on the computer science track when I was only one of the 2 out of 60 students who wanted to do computer science. That was way long time ago. So yeah. And in recent times, I was a Marie Curie fellow, and I read a lot about Marie Sklodowska-Curie, the woman, the person with 2 Nobel Prizes. I read a lot about her, very inspirational. She was unapologetically herself. So I think that's the attitude we need as women, to take space, to do what we keep doing. And yes, of course, with the right support as well. So she was one of my inspirations before coming to XR.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks so much for sharing. Well, oh, Leesa, I see a hand. You're muted. Can you unmute?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, a small note before we end this topic of inspirations. I came here to inspire initially, but I didn't plan to get inspired. But to be honest, the whole panel has inspired me quite much.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Thanks so much. All right. Well, to end work towards the end, I want to keep a little bit of Q&A open at the end. We have a couple of minutes left, but one thing I would really like to ask you, Marievi, if there is anything right now, tomorrow, that you can change about how the industry supports women. One last thing, what would it be?
It's quite a good, difficult question at the same time. I think the best thing to do would be to help women through webinars like this one, for example, understand their potential and their power, and help them believe in themselves and eliminate the doubting. So I guess I will focus mostly on seminars, webinars, and any form of awareness towards women.
Thank you so much. Any other, if there's one thing that you want to change, what would it be? Megha.
Yeah, I think I can summarize it in one word, moderation. So it's not about opting for extreme views regarding gender, regarding technical competence and everything. So there should be a balance there. So industries could look for trade-offs, of course, given that we may have different backgrounds, different cultures. So moderation, I think, can help better.
That's a good point. Thank you so much. Any last? Oh, Georgia. Are you muted?
If I could be a legislator, for example, I could surely make obligatory some courses to certain trajectories, law schools, architect, tourism, business schools. I would surely make some courses about technology and XR and I don't know, AI, certain fields. to be obligatory for the students to be able to understand that this trajectory is interdisciplinary. It can, help assist us in pretty much every field today, not just technology. It could be everything, education, history, pretty much everything, fashion.
Yeah, that's true. Thanks so much. Yeah, for me, if there are actually two things I would like to wish for a change tomorrow, and I think I mentioned it already before. First of all, for teams to become really diverse, we need more diverse people in boardrooms. So I would like to make keys and give the boardroom keys out to as much people as possible to make those teams more diverse, because that's actually where it starts. That's where the decisions are made. And second is, of course, the payment gap. I mean, it still exists, and I wish we could change that. It's happening. I know that on a European level, there are also steps being taken to, and every country probably is also working on it to minimize the gap, but it's still there, and it's not going fast enough, in my personal opinion. So power and money, that's still for me the two most important things that need to be diversified, not just to women, but to more people in general. Leesa, I see your hand.
I think there's a question.
Yes, there is one question. How do you handle situations where your ideas or contributions are overlooked or dismissed in a male-dominated team?
That's a really good question. I mean, I personally, I think we all have the experience where you're in a meeting and you say an idea, or you explain your idea, and nothing happens, and 15 minutes later the same idea is repeated. It helps, or when you're speaking, somebody interrupts you and you're just your voice is drowned out. What I think, and I think that's something that was already mentioned. First of all, it's your mindset that's very important. When stuff like that happens, instead of feeling like, oh my God, what's happening? I'm saying something wrong, or your reaction is, oh, what I'm saying is not important. Just take a moment of silence and then pick up the conversation again, and just make your point, saying, hey, I'm sorry. I really value your input on my ideas, but I would like to finish my point, and it's very important for me that you hear my point. When you feel ideas are being unheard, or it will happen sometimes, and it happened to me a long time ago, a couple of times. And back then, when I was very young, I was like, oh my God, this is probably not my space. But I've learned to, when that happens, mention it, speak up. Say things like, hey, I just mentioned that, or hey, I already worked on that idea, or I already have a prototype ready on this. So try to, like we said, change your mindset, not to minimize yourself when stuff like that happens, but to actually own up. It's your idea. You mentioned it before, so grab it and don't let anybody run up with it. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Regina. So that was the last question for today, and it was answered successfully. So now, if you'll agree, we can move on to the closing remarks. So thank you all for joining us today for the MASTERXR webinar. It's been extremely inspiring to hear from such amazing women who are shaping the future of extended reality. And I hope that we can continue to support and elevate diverse voices as we push the boundaries of innovation together. And let's keep making the future of XR brighter and more inclusive. Regina, do you want to add something?
No, I want to thank you guys for organizing this, and I want to thank all of the panel members for being here and all the amazing questions, because that really helped to make this a bit of an interactive exercise, and it's really nice to hear the concerns that are out there. So thank you all.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks to the entire team for organizing this and for joining today. And yeah, this is it. Thank you and have a nice day.